Howdy folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's tutorial is this CSS and JavaScript menu with indicator. Now there are quite a few of these out in the wild, but this is my take on it. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So the very first thing I'm going to do is to create our index.html file, add the Font Awesome library, and hook up our CSS file. Then I'll create the nav wrapper element where our menu will be housed, and then just include our main.js file. And then in the style sheet, I'm just including a quick and dirty little reset to bring margins and paddings back to 0, and then including a wrapper for the menu. Next up, I'm going to create the menu. I'm going to call this nav-primary, and then create a few list items inside. So inside of our anchor element, I'm basically doing three things. I'm giving it a title. This one is home, and I'm wrapping it in a span element. This one called li-name. And then I'm including two italic elements for the Font Awesome icons. And with these Font Awesome icons, you'll notice that I'm giving them class names of fet-icon and fet-icon-bg. So all we need to do now is duplicate these guys and change the names and icons. And after we're done, we should have something that resembles the right-hand side browser window. Next up, I'm going to center the nav menu by including the wrapper class that we've created previously. And then giving the nav wrapper a background color and height. And then I'll use display flex to align our unordered list items. For the list items, I'm going to remove the default bullet styles. Give the flex grow property a value of 1 so that we evenly distribute our list items. And then just center everything, give it a height, and change the font size. And for the anchor element, nothing too crazy going on here. We're just going to style it, give it a color, remove the text decoration. But the most important part is we're making it position relative, because everything inside this element, such as the span element and the Font Awesome icons, are going to be absolutely positioned. Now we'll start positioning our icons and text inside of our anchor element. So the text is going to be positioned 30 pixels from the bottom. And our main icon will be positioned 30 pixels from the top. We're just going to do a few little things here, such as decrease the opacity, give it a transition so it animates nice and smoothly a bit later on, position absolutely, and increase the font size. Unfortunately, I made a little error here, and this should be top 30 pixels, not bottom. It will be fixed very soon. And then all that's left inside the anchor element is to position and scale the background icon. So I'm going to center it, increase the font size, decrease the opacity, and scale it down to 0. So effectively it is hidden. And we're done here for the moment. The menu would look a lot better if the icon was positioned 30 pixels from the top, but hey, we'll fix that in the next part. And in this part, we're just going to add our indicator. The indicator will follow us around as we hover over each menu item. Just to note, I'm giving it a width of 100% just for illustrative purposes. The width will be set back to 0 in a few moments. Now we can finally fix that icon position, change that to top instead of bottom. And cool, looking so much better now. Right, moving on to the fun stuff. We're going to animate our indicator now. So first up, we need to declare some variables, an active list item to target our indicator, and a list items variable to target all of the list item elements. And then just a variable to target the nav, and an active index variable, which we'll use a little bit later. And here we create the guts of the project, which is the indicator function. When we hover over a list item, the indicator is going to slide over to that element that we've hovered, and it's going to change the width to the width of the list item. Great, so now we have our indicator function. Now we just need to execute it every time we hover over a list item. So we're going to loop through each list item and then execute the indicator function. And now we just need to pop back into our CSS file and change the width of the indicator to 0. And if we hover over the menu now, we can see that the indicator follows us around and expands to the width of each list item. So next up, we just need to animate our icons, and we'll animate our icon first that is above the text, and we'll just create some keyframes first. So a quick rundown of this animation. The icon will start at 30 pixels from the top. Midway, it will move 50 pixels up, basically making it hidden. And then at the end of the animation, the icon will animate back down, fully opaque. And then all we need to do is create a new keyframes animation that will reverse what we've just done when we hover outside of our list item. With our keyframe animations made, now all we need to do is integrate these when we hover over a list item and when we hover outside of it. You can see here when we hover over our list item, I'm giving the animation name of nav icon hover in. And then when we hover away from our list item, we will run the animation nav icon hover out. Just a little note here, you'll see that I'm changing the animation fill mode to backwards because this makes the animation run a lot smoother when we hover away from our list item. And that's pretty cool. Our menu is definitely starting to take shape. Now let's tackle the background icon. So we'll create some new CSS keyframes. And when we hover into our list item, we'll call this nav icon bg hover in and nav icon bg hover out when we hover outside of it. When we hover over a list item, we are going to scale the background icon to 2 times of its current size and rotate it 45 degrees. And when we hover outside of the list item, we'll just reverse the animation. And then the same as before with our main icon, we just need to integrate these animations when we hover in and out of our list items. A quick look in the browser to see how things are progressing, and it looks pretty cool. Although you can see when we hover back out of the list item, there is a pop with the background icon. We just need to add in this animation now. Now when we hover away, the background icon smoothly scales back down to 0. You'll also notice that the background icon pops out of our container, so we need to fix that next. A pretty simple fix, all we'll do is add an overflow hidden to our anchor element. Perfect. What I like to do now is if the menu has an active class, let's say we're on a page such as home, I want the indicator to fade in instead of sliding in, as this just looks a little bit better. So I'll create a fade in and fade out class. And then in our for each loop, we're going to check if any menu item has an active class. And if so, add the index to our active index variable, which we created earlier. So for example, our home has an active class, and that is the first index. So if we view console, we will see the number 1. If the about us item had an active class instead, the number would be 2, and so on. So now if our menu has an item with an active class, we have the index number. We can then check if the active index is null. If it's not, we can run some code. First of all, I'm going to hide the indicator from view by giving it a class of fade out. And then I'm going to create some set timeout functions that will move the indicator to the correct position with the item that has the active class and then fade in the indicator. I'm using the set timeout functions to basically move the indicator behind the scenes so you can't see it actually moving and then fade it in when it's in the correct place. A quick refresh, and I think that looks a lot better. We're nearly ready to wrap up this project, so thank you if you've made it this far. What I would like to do now, if there is a menu with an active class, to slide the indicator back to that item when we hover away, or if there's no active class, fade the indicator out. Let's test this out by removing the active class from home and adding it to our work. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this menu now. It looks pretty cool in my opinion, and hopefully you guys agree. The last piece of the puzzle in this tutorial is to add a fade in class to our indicator function, because we add the fade out class whenever we hover away from the menu. So this just puts it back in and actually displays the indicator. And I think that's a wrap. I'd be grateful if you guys could consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one.